irrespective of how busy life becomes, it's extremely important to take time for yourself.
Our featured speaker today is the founder of Algorithm, a service that connects international students with everything they need to land their first quality job in their field, from industry expert mentors who share similar cultural backgrounds to personalized guidance on technical, career, and immigration-related matters. Siam, it's a great pleasure to have you as our featured guest today. Thank you so much for making this time to share your journey with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and especially on a Saturday, like a weekend. Thanks for blocking your time.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's turned out to be a time that a lot of us mutually can connect. So we appreciate you giving us your weekend time. Would you mind kind of, taking us back and talking about maybe some of your earlier experiences? Do you feel like there were any particular people that came into your life or life events that really strongly influenced your personal and professional development?
There are a lot of people who I would say like influenced me in my personal slash professional development. I think these are all intertwined. Like, I don't know how to separate a lot of things I learned from my careers, transferred to my personal relationships, and vice versa. But I think for the scope of, I guess, like today's discussion, I can share one story on which I remember to be more defining or definitive for me to be so committed on what I do. Basically, I moved to the US in 2009 for my master's. In 2010, I started a Facebook group just to help people from Bangladesh, that's where I'm originally from, to come to the US for university studies like GRE, SAT, SOP prep, how to choose your, professor, things like that. At that time, the Facebook group had 200 or 300 members. It's very new. I was doing my master's, funded, doing it as an RA, very busy, but still spending time of my weekends in doing all these, these group activities in online in Facebook. That was, at that time, Facebook groups were very new. I remember that I was in Houston back then. I remember talking to my mom in a parking lot of our apartment. And I was asking my mom that, Mom, I'm doing my master's and I'm spending so much time every week voluntarily for helping these kids from Bangladesh for free to come to like US or choose universities in US and get scholarships. What is in it for me? Am I just a dumb person? My mom said, how long did it take for you to basically gather all this information you're kind of like giving away for free? I said that if someone actually guided me with some kind of career counseling or strategy or this kind of thing, it would have at least saved 1 year of my life, because I made so much mistake applying for universities, being the first person in my entire family to move to the US, just didn't know any of these things. My mom said that, okay, so if you have 300 people in your group, then if you're giving the information away for free and each takes 1 year, then you're technically moving Bangladesh 300 years ahead, which is technically not correct mathematically. But I was young and I got so motivated with this thing. I was like, yes, like I want to make sure that every person I meet, I save at least 1 years of their life, and what they do with that, that's pretty much their choice. I call this that everyone has a drug. For me, this is my drug, my cocaine, that basically what kind of keeps me running, that, whenever I'm able to help someone and I see that I have made an impact, especially in their career, they're always coming back to me and saying that, hey, Siam, like, you are the reason for which I came to the US. And I think that, oh my God, I am such an average person. And me being able to do such impact is just crazy. So anyway, so my mom, I would say, long-winded answer to your short question. My mom is the person who kind of like inspired me.
I have had similar experience with my mum. She's someone who inspires me regularly. She started a business before I was born, was very successful. She's an incredible person. And I definitely understand that feeling of being inspired by your mother. What I really loved about what you just told us is the logic or the argument that your mother put to you and you like took as, this is incredible, this is motivating. I really love that. When you talk to an entrepreneur and they're solving something that they dealt with, is such a strong motivator for like success, and it gives you such a clear insight into your customers, so to speak. Can you tell us a bit more about the present day of Algorithm and what you see as sort of like versus when you first started it, but now the version of it as like the main goal or ambition of the company?
Great question. Thank you. I would say when I started the Facebook group, that wasn't created as an entrepreneurial effort. It was literally because I like helping the people and basically helping people who have, as you said, like gone through similar journey, because I know that this can be easier. And if I'm seeing another person who is struggling on the same path, why don't I just go and help them? But I never thought that I will become an entrepreneur. It was just like literally for, I don't know, fun or just to help people. After I finished my master's, I had to go through my own set of problems, which kind of like immigration. I don't know if you know many people who are going through the US immigration. It is so messed up that they bring in so much smart talent globally, and then somehow they don't know what to do with the talent anymore. So they're going through different like OPT H1 visas, people who are working in Facebook and Google for 7 years, then they get fired. And within 60 days, they have to leave the country. So there are these weird rules in the US immigration, which doesn't let the talented people stay here. Usually, these are the people who are the top of the cream of the crops. Basically, they move from their back home. They have fought all the battle. And then for this silly immigration, they might have to go back home, deported or whatever, even talented legal immigrants. So I had to go through my own struggles after my master's. I didn't find a proper job. So I finished my master's in electrical engineering. And then after that, I couldn't find a job in electrical engineering. I found myself working in food trucks in New York. I don't know if you know this halal gyro stands. So I was working there. A big part of, I would say, from my master's until I got my green card of my pretty much this, I don't know, almost like a decade, like 7 or 8 years, completely got wiped out, mostly because I was trying to figure out that immigration situation. Anyway, to answer your question, I would say that the fundamentals started from this helping people, but then when I got my green card, I started thinking that maybe instead of thinking of it just as a one-on-one or, like this, I don't know, this kind of unscalable way, let's think that if I can make a business and make it sustainable for myself. Because when I got my green card, before starting Algorithm, I was working in a financial investment company. They handle people's 401ks, mutual funds, things like that. Nothing against financial investment companies, but I was making rich people more rich. And I was thinking that, okay, maybe I should do something which is a little bit more close to my heart and makes me more happy as a person. I saved up some money by that time. So I would say the essence of starting that Facebook group, which is called Higher Study Abroad, I made it a nonprofit, gave me the fundamental core of Algorithm, but it is still a for-profit company, but it has this core of needing to be helping people, keeping that as the front and center. I don't know if I went through such a long-winded answer. Did I answer your question?
You did, absolutely. I was just hoping you could give us like a feel and a background of Algorithm as a company and your sort of vision for it.
We help immigrants in the US land their first high-paying job. So there are a lot of immigrants, either they came here through international student visa. They might not be studying in like good schools or they don't have good brand names. Maybe they studied in, I don't know, University of North Texas, for example. Or they came here through DV or other green card and they have engineering degrees or STEM degrees from back home, but they don't know how to navigate the US job market. Especially for a beginner, they don't know how to connect with a recruiter. They know English, but they don't know how to, the industry jargons to be able to connect, how to work with US style resume, US style LinkedIn. There is this huge opaque nature of soft skills, which needs to be cracked. And then US industry have this interesting requirement that you have, in order to land your first job, you have to have a US job experience. There's no entry-level job. I am in the industry. I can see it's so difficult that usually jobs require you to have some kind of experience, which is a catch-22 problem that how can I have an experience without actually working? But it is an expectation from employer side. So this is, let's say, problem.
To get your first major US job, you have to already have US.
I would say you will get preference if you have some kind of industry experience, even if you have like some internship, some summer internship done or something. Let's say that's another requirement or something we have seen. And then the last one is immigration, that many of the times, let's say you are technically competent, you have gone through the interview process, but in the last mile, whenever they hear that, oh, what is your status? And they're saying, I'm in OPT extension. I'm like, oh, shoot, we don't understand this terminology. Sorry, we're not hiring you. But maybe that would take literally half an hour for the employer to fix. It's nothing. Like, it's not a complex thing. They just don't know these terms. And there is a lot of this fear against it. Not intentional. I understand the US employer's perspective as well. So what we do is that we provide them hands-on experience, which is basically compliant to a US corporation level experience. We work with other startups to give these talents like a voluntary experience of 2 or 3 months where they work on a hands-on product or internship in a real company, and that they can also put in a resume as their experience. We teach them with the soft skills or storytelling skills on pretty much navigating the entire job market, job hunt tactics, reaching out to recruiters, how to go to events, how to prepare yourself, how to mock interview, how to position your story on why are you moving from Nepal and why are you willing to job, like, all these answers. And then we also help them with immigration support through talking with the HR side of the businesses. So unless you're Facebook or Google, you don't have so much money to be able to have an immigration lawyer in-house. But there are many mid-sized SMB-sized companies where we are actually able to talk with the HR. We have talked with so many companies where we work with the HR to make the hiring easier. The talent said that, hey, they're not understanding these terms. Siam, your team, can you jump in? We jumped in, we talked with their HR and made the hiring easy. It's a very end-to-end kind of concierge service, very long. That's what we do.
But you serve such a specific and, from what I know, very needed niche, because unfortunately, yes, in this community, I know several people that had to leave the US very abruptly too. I'm trying to think what the month was that one of our community members told us was basically the month of goodbyes. It was when the US kind of mass let a whole bunch of people go. It seems radically unfair. I mean, I'm, a US born citizen, and I very much appreciate that. It seems radically unfair to say, like you're saying, like, okay, you're creme de la creme student. You can come over and you can go to this university. Maybe it's a great university. Maybe it's, an okay university, but like you can come over and you maybe can have like a work internship. And then you kind of have to sink or swim. You have to figure it out. I don't know. From what I've seen, this either creates like a lot of competition between those people, or what you've done is help them come together in a community. I think that's a really beautiful thing because you have so much in common, even if you're from different areas. Yeah, navigating the US immigration system, my experience is limited in that, but it is difficult. And also the laws can change, even like when you're in the midst of, trying to apply for a visa. Forget about like even going through and trying to get some sort of citizenship. But so I really appreciate like all the layers that you're sharing and trying to serve through algorithm. And I also found it really fascinating that you created a nonprofit first, because I would say in my nonprofit experience, the people are there because they're driven by the mission. So you've already created that culture that a lot of big companies are trying to reverse engineer and be like, why does our culture suck? So you already have that secret sauce. I really respect what you're doing. I was wondering, as your business has grown and expanded, what parts did you feel like really unprepared for? Was it just how fast things grew? Like, I'm sure that your business background came in handy, but what did you feel least prepared for?
So many things. So I don't know where to start. So first of all, my background in master's was electrical engineering. So I was not fully prepared for business, to be honest. I'm more like a tech person who is caring about people. That's basically my only two skill sets. I mean, I don't even know. The algorithm has taught me so much. Even if the whole business shuts down tomorrow, I'll still be happy because there are so many lives I already have helped, and it has personally helped me so much grow as a leader, manager, however you say it. I think the first challenge was that because I have never been trained on I don't know, like a professional business structure before, like how to make money, how to generate revenue. These things were kind of a little bit hard for me because I'm the thing you said that many of the corporate companies are trying to switch towards this more impact driven or socially driven side. For me, the challenge was opposite, that I am too much on that side and I had to figure out how to make it sustainable. That's also a challenge. Like if you're too much in nonprofit, I have seen a lot of people never be able to switch to for profit or build a big business. They're in nonprofit. Nothing bad about it. Like nonprofits are amazing. So I had to understand the definitions of market, how to price things, how to talk to customers, like a lot of things from the business lens. And one of the things which was a little bit easier for us was figuring out demand, because we were working on such a super niche space, but extremely high demand. Like many of the companies I see in US that they're building a lot of products and seeing that there is actually not as much demand because they're making another Candy Crush acute app. Sure, like people will download this app, but it might not be able to generate revenue forever. Maybe it could be viral for this year, sure. So for us, that wasn't a challenge. Demand, that was a luck thing which happened that, oh shoot, like we are in an extremely high demand market, which makes the founders' lives much easier. That, okay, we can just solve the problem. We don't have to market. Even until now, we have not done any kind of paid advertising, nothing. Everything came fully organically, fully through word of mouth. So that's basically shows the demand. I would say the challenge we faced, and I would say like kind of still facing, is that I have never built I don't know, like $1 billion company before. I have never played that game. So I don't know anything of how to do that. And I can learn a lot of books. There are a lot of theories, but when you're in the war zone, none of the books seem to work fully directly. So you have to pretty much figure it out all the time. So I would say the issue is that I don't know how to scale the company to $1 billion company. I know the size of the market, but I'm realizing that I have to hire maybe a little bit different type of team from where I started from 0 to 1 level, versus if I want to make $1 billion company, maybe the team has to change. Some of the teammates have to change. Because we are also a bootstrap company, in the last 3 years, we have gone through so many ups and downs of going through a little bit hiring, and then, oh shoot, after 6 months, we have to fire 50% of the people. I mean, it's a very small team, but for us, these are all the people I know personally. These are all connected. And I was so bad in firing. But now I realize that as a founder, that's a mandatory skill. You need to be very comfortable hiring and very comfortable firing all the time. So even if it is personal relationship, it's somehow you have to figure it out how to do it. So it was very painful. I would say like it took me almost 1 year how to learn firing properly. So I have to maybe like write some blog about how to fire people properly and have the conversation. But anyway, I had to learn all these painful skills to become a founder. Still going through a lot of struggles. I can send you like a big list of struggles I'm going through right now. So yeah, these are some of the struggles.
I think that's such a pertinent point. So many founders go through that experience of realizing they have to be able to fire, and not just like after a 6 month or 1 year delay fire, but you have to be ready to pull the trigger. And it is, especially if you've never like done that kind of thing, it is devastatingly hard. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up as a key point.
Hi there. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you mind leaving us a review, a like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Thanks so much. That really helps our reach. The Founders Voyage podcast is now proudly sponsored by VidOps. Kane at VidOps has been taking care of our editing since early 2024. He works efficiently, and I'm sure you'll agree that he does a great job. Thank you to VidOps for helping bring this podcast to life. If you want the same great support we're getting for your podcast, or you need help with video, photography, or animation, you can get 10% off at vidops.io using our referral code VOYAGE. That's vidops.io, referral code VOYAGE. Now back to the show.
Now, on the positive side, and as a fellow engineer, what do you think your engineering background gave you as skills to hopefully benefit developing a company, but also, I imagine in some ways, like sort of hinder your ability to develop a company?
I love the question, especially the second part of the question. Yeah, I should also look at the positives of being an engineer and being a person who is coming from an engineering mindset. The benefit it gave me is that I definitely am good in product. Building something is extremely comes naturally. I love building end-to-end systems, either it be no code, doesn't matter. So I would say the initial iteration of building our product, and even now, I'm not managing the direct code bases anymore, but I handle the product architecture still fully. I am primarily the product person in the company still. And I love how all these systems interconnect. If you're an engineer, you know that there's some fun in solving a puzzle and building something.
Absolutely.
The thing I did struggle way more in the last 2-3 years, but starting last year, getting a little better because I have worked a lot on this, on personal coaches, read a lot of books, stuff like that, is managing people. I fundamentally love systems and I am so bad in managing people. I had to learn a lot of things in the last couple of years, just in general, how to appreciate a teammate, how to give feedback. I didn't know that there has to be so many layers of managing people. I would say anyone who worked under me 4 years ago, they will have maybe pretty tough reviews about me that, okay, Siam was such a bad manager. I was obviously not coming from a bad place, but I had a lot of pressure as a CEO and I had to put them into my team unintentionally in a not so nice way. But I think that's where I'm also coming back to my gratefulness towards Algorithm or just running a team or being a leader, is that it has taught me on how to operate with people, how to delegate, how to break tasks down, how to nurture a teammate and empower them, how to give them more autonomy and not micromanage them. People who are good in managing people, for them it might be easy, but I had to go through so much learning to learn each of these small tasks. I'm still learning, but I would say my engineering background kind of stifled that side, because I've seen a lot of people who are coming from more management/business backgrounds and they're much better on people skills than me. I am better compared to the last 4 years. I am better, but still there is a long way to go for me.
I really appreciate you giving us such a personal answer. It's difficult to admit what we're not good at. I would say I'm a people person, but managing people is not just about being a people person. You actually made me think of a really good book that I read. It's not very long. I shared it on the Questions and Discussion channel called Permission to Screw Up. And you might have heard of it before, but it's a lot about how she just has a heart for her whole team and she has to learn how to manage people and give them good feedback and fire people when it's appropriate for the greater good of the growth of her company and the team. And just, kind of how personally she struggles with, even as the company grows, to disappoint any of these people. And she just wants, to offload some of those more difficult tasks, but realizes that's not the answer. I found it very personable, in the same way that you were sharing the story. And I think it's just not easy to be all of those different things, but I appreciate that you're on this growth journey. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit to what you were talking about in the beginning, which was being a digital nomad for a little bit and living in different countries. I can guess as to, what might have inspired that. I'm sure it made it really difficult to grow your company doing that. So I'd love to hear what did inspire that and what did you take away from that experience?
Nomading and traveling and all those. I would say like I obviously have been. So I was born in Bangladesh. I grew up in Saudi Arabia and I have been living in the US for last 15 years. And even in the last 15 years in US, I have been to 40 states already. I have been to 40 states pretty much in the first 5 years of my US. So I love traveling, period. I just love moving around, hiking. I'm barely at home, or I used to be barely at home. I used to always be very outgoing in general. But I would say one of my dreams was to be able to live in different countries, not as just like a traveler where I'm going to like a touristic place, like going to Paris and just take pictures of Eiffel Towers and pretty much like, okay, goodbye. I understand Paris now. Instead of doing that, actually going to a place and like living in one neighborhood or one house for a couple of months at least. And in the nomad community, I realized that there is a term for this. It's called slow madding. So I actually realized that I love the slow madding idea because I grew up in such a different type of countries. Like I was a Bangladeshi, but already an immigrant in Saudi Arabia. My parents moved to Saudi Arabia when I was 1 month old. I am already kind of like this hybrid person. When I look back, all the cultures I grew up in are kind of a little bit different. And every culture taught me something, a new way of looking at things. Let's say, for example, coming to the US, it had helped me so much just to again grow as a person. I think you are probably seeing this trend that I love personal growth. Like it is pretty much what I am very inspired about from all directions. It is painful sometimes, but I think I like the rewards it gives me, the stretching which happens in my mind. I would say like I had this dream that if I was able to live in, let's say, a little bit in Italy, a little bit in, I don't know, like any random country, Finland, Morocco, Turkey, Portugal, Spain, any country, for a few months each, then I will become a little bit Portuguese. I'll become a little bit Spanish. I'll become a little bit Turkish, a little bit Moroccan. Obviously, the longer I stay, the bigger I become that. And that was my intent. And to be honest, like I'm so happy that I got to do it in a more slow mad way, because for most of the countries I was living for 2 to 3 months, literally just took one Airbnb. We traveled in the weekend sometimes with other groups, but mostly I was just hanging out with locals. I lived in this very cute, very small Moroccan town called Tagajud. It's on the west side. It's an old fisherman's village converted to a surf town, and I love surfing. I just went there randomly through a friend's referral. Like a friend means someone I met in Marrakesh in an event. And this guy said that, hey, you should check out Tagajud. It's a very hidden style town. And I went there for maybe like 3 or 4 days, and I ended up staying there for 2 months because I'm like, okay, this has such a cool vibe. I became a little bit Tagajud person. Like I have so many friends there now. I went to some fisherman's house. I got to hang out with his kids, his family. I got to hear these people live there, has been living there generations. And I got to experience a little bit of that culture, that thread as a person, which I feel like is a massive privilege, to be honest, to be like an alien to a society or a civilization which is kind of detached from the core civilization, Facebook, Google. I don't like this like major civilization. They're kind of detached from it. They're also humans. They're also surviving, happy, and got to learn so much that, there are also like other parts of life you can be happy about. You don't always have to, like be in social media, for example, 24 hours a day. But this is just one town in Morocco. But I have had similar, many such experiences in many different countries. And which obviously each of these experiences changed my persona at least a little percentage. And I think all these makes me who I am right now. That's basically what inspired me to do these nomadic adventures.
I think that's incredible. And I think it's something. So I grew up and until I was 23 lived in Australia. Now I live in the UK. That's only one move. And I think that had a huge impact on me as a person. I can't imagine how much it helps you grow as a person and sort of experience new versions of life by traveling as much as you have. I think that's such an incredible experience, and I really appreciate you talking through that with us. It's hard to understate the value, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And can I add a little bit thing you just because you shared, it just reminded me a very small appreciation about life, which came is that, let's say I am one day in, I don't know, let's say in Dhaka, which is like a very busy, super populated city. Then the next day I wake up in this beach, very close to beach in Hawaii. Literally the beach is like, let's say 10 minutes walk. So I was in Dhaka, very busy, it's noisy, crowded, all this traffic and noise and, all these things are happening. I don't know if you have been to Dhaka, but any big city, mega city in the developing country, most of them, they're very interesting and chaotic. But that is also one way of living. That's also one reality. If I'm playing a game, so I woke up in that game and then I go to sleep. And then the next day I'm waking up in a different game. And when you said this thing, it triggered that, that is one of the appreciation I had in my life, that this is so crazy that I get to experience all these different versions of different games. Not every day, but like quite often. That's just a little appreciation I had recently.
And it's something that throughout human history, like before, I don't know, 100 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, was impossible. We could never experience this variety of culture that is now accessible at sometimes a bit of a price, but like sometimes actually really reasonable prices. And I think that's such an amazing privilege of the time that we get to live in personally. Just to sort of give you a bit of a open-ended, so to speak, question, what I'd like to understand from your perspective is you're doing a few interesting things, you're moving around a lot, you have a lot going on in your life. How do you decide what's worth putting the energy into? Like, how do you, if someone proposes something to you, how do you be like, this isn't worth my time, or this is worth my time? What's your evaluation criteria?
A very good question. I would say evaluation criteria is, I have a pretty well-defined, clearly defined value system for me personally. And the first vetting happens through the value systems. I mean, it's not like I have an Excel sheet, we have to go through a hiring process, but this is more like a mental value system. So I value, for me, number one is basically being curious and open to change, and curiosity in general, asking questions. That set of values are extremely important for me. Let's call it number one. Or, I mean, I don't know if there is ranking in the values. Maybe I'll have to sit again with the values. Second one is that empathetic and kind and wants to help humanity or animals or the planet in some way, shape, or form. Have to be empathy or kindness oriented. And then third one would be that I really admire people who are a little bit self-aware, or has, for lack of better words, like a little bit less ego, or they have gone through some kind of personal journey, some hardship, something which has grounded them. They have become a little bit aware of their own flaws somewhat. And honestly, if I put all these three filters, there are not too many people where I have seen extremely curious people, but not so kind. I've seen very, combination of this is eliminating a lot of people already, I feel like. So for me, the importance, to answer your question, when I choose to do something anymore, I see that, okay, is it worth my energy to spend time with this person? Even if it is business, even if it is work, doesn't matter. You can be the best coder, the best salesperson in the whole planet. But if I don't have value alignment with you, I won't be working with you. That's it. I care a lot about sharing my energy with the person, even if it is business partner, hiring, my boss, even an investor, try to invest a lot of money with me. But if their values are not aligned, I won't go with the investment. So that's a big filter in general, people and values. In terms of work, I try to now only engage with companies or industries which are a little bit more aligned to mine. So I would say like probably ed tech, HR tech, legal tech, within this range of companies, I mean, I would love to work with climate tech companies, but I'm not able to, do much there at this moment. So that automatically, organically happened, I guess. I'm not intentionally filtering people out on there. It's just like, I'm not good at it. So like, might as well stick to my own crowd. And then another thing, I guess, like, I live in a very day-to-day kind of way, although like founders or like anyone who is trying to do something, they have to have a long vision, but the world changes too fast. And especially in the last decade, the world has been changing so fast, and it will only keep accelerating. The speed of change is going to only accelerate. For me, it's extremely important to live very day to day, or being in the more present, in the way that whenever I'm starting the day, I try to, at least I am not able to do perfectly every day, but I try to have a day when I go to sleep to pretty much have, like, even if I die that night or tonight, I'll be more or less happy. So this is how I operate pretty much every day. That did I have a more or less wholesome day? Did I do some work? Did I go to the park a little bit? Did I have some nice dinner with some friend? And then, okay, good. If it is not happening in the day, then maybe tomorrow. So within a week, I usually have a somewhat wholesome week, which was not present at all. If you met me like 2 or 3 years ago, I was very extreme. I was working 80 hours a day, a week, like just founder life, just crushing it. Now I don't do that anymore. Now I'm like, okay, I want to have a nice, wholesome buffet of life experience, ideally within a day, if not possible, at least within the range of a week. These are a couple of ways I operate, or my filters.
I really appreciate you sharing that. All of us think about this just a little bit differently. I know we're, kind of getting to the last 10 minutes of the hour, but I do want to fit in a couple more questions. And I was really wondering, I feel like you had all of this experience before you went to the MIT boot camp. So what inspired that? Like, why did you decide, even though I have this knowledge, I want to do that too? And then what did you really take with you? Do you feel like it was something, in the 24 steps that really resonated with you, or was it a person you met?
Great question. So I have already gone through a lot of like other founder boot camps before the MIT one, but still wanted to go to the MIT one mostly because for every founder in general, any of these like curated / this kind of boot camps where people or smart people are putting energy into designing a system which will give people value. I have seen that actually honestly, almost all of them had some kind of positive effect in me. The MIT boot camp was special and will definitely be in one of my favorite boot camps because it was in person. I've gone through a lot of boot camps during COVID, which were all remote. And I don't know if MIT does the remote or not, but I was looking specifically for an in-person bootcamp because in-person has you can make the best friendships. I don't know, you can meet the person of your life. So many things can happen in in-person things. So I would say that was one of the big things that I wanted to be in an in-person thing where I go through the experience and it changes my perspective compared to just reading a book. Because the books are always available. I mean, I can watch YouTube video, but going through this experience, getting feedback every day, talking with your friends, walking in the campus, it all embeds in your memory. So that was, I would say, one good thing. And in general, I know that these kind of boot camps, whenever there's this curated, good quality boot camps experiences happening, even if you know some of the theories or some wisdom in general from before, you can always learn something new, or you can also make just a new connection. I think in this era, at least, I don't believe too much in theoretical knowledge anymore in such a way that, everything is already free anyway, knowledge-wise. YouTube is there, the biggest university in the planet. And then we have Udemy, which are $10 courses. I think knowledge is not this era's issue. I think accountability is issue. It's utilizing the knowledge with a group where the edtech is in general struggling. And I think MIT Bootcamp was very well designed on that side. It was intense. Every day there has been some, it was brutal, but it was so good. When I'm looking at what are the good fun things I did this year, I would say this is one of the top fun things. because it was so intense. And I still am having references from that week that, oh, shoot, like this, we have to do the PM. Oh, this is what we had discussion in this lobby about this specific topic. We should go back to this.
That's great. And it's cool to hear like a comparison between other experiences that you've gone through and hear about like the pros and cons. I think that's really, really valuable. So I want you to interpret this question in a way that makes the most sense to you. The question is basically, what words of wisdom or piece of advice would you like to leave us with today? Now, this can be something that you've personally thought of, can be something that's been passed down from someone that you've known for a long time, can be something you've read in a book, whatever sort of resonates the most with you is like the piece of wisdom you want to share with us. What would that be?
I would say that irrespective of how busy life becomes, it's extremely important to take time for yourself. The current civilization is designed in such a way that we are extremely overstimulated, especially with others' thoughts and ideas. And in general, like the system is designed to be overly communicated, hyper communication. To be honest, I think majority of the technology's development in the last 10 to 20 years has been in communication technology, good or bad, whatever, like this is the situation we're in. And in this kind of thing, it is extremely easy to get lost in other people's voices, even if you're very smart. I think the fundamental biggest breakthroughs I had in my life were when I disconnected from every communication things. I try to do it at least once a week, if not many times I cannot do it, maybe once a quarter for 2 or 3 days. I go to like silent retreats. In the last 7 years, every year I have been going to like 3-day silent retreats where you're literally in silence for 3 days. Last year I have been to a 10-day silent retreat where you are leaving everything and you're literally in silence for 10 days, only eating and sleeping and meditating all day, every day, and no communication with any humans. I would say like recommendation or advice, I would say is just to take time to listen to your own inner voice. It might be a little bit weird in the beginning, but I'm sure that it is there somewhere. But yeah, that's the wisdom I believe.
Well said. There are certain things that we just need to kind of reiterate, like this is who you are now. This is who you identify as. And I really appreciate your passion for personal growth as well. I think it's something that we're all pretty mutually passionate about. I think we'll have to have you back because we definitely did not get to all of the questions and topics that we planned to, which is a good sign. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and for all of the things that you have taught us. I do want to just say thank you to everyone else too. Spencer and I feel very fortunate to be part of this community with you and to bring what we feel are cooperative learning experiences like this one each week. So we hope that you'll join us again and listen in the meantime to some of the other journeys. Please feel free to nominate anyone else that you think would benefit from this experience. If anyone would like to support our efforts to make this into a podcast, you can do that through our Patreon. But in the meantime, thank you again so much, Siam. And we look forward to connecting with you in the future and continuing to hear about your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much again.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.